Thank you all for being here. We are going to get started. I want to call the Metro Arts Board of Commissioners May meeting to order at 12:05. Again, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. Do we have a land acknowledgement today? If we don't, that's fine. Okay, we do. We have the land acknowledgement, and so we will do that and read that together. You can follow along on the screens or just listen to me read it. Metro Arts stands and holds space for the unceded and sovereign lands of the Cherokee, Yuchi, and Shawnee peoples who have stewarded it for generations. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. We acknowledge we are all standing on ancestral lands, and we honor the thousands of enslaved African peoples whose lives were physically and spiritually stolen. We pay respects to elders past and present. Metro Arts invites you to join in our commitment to knowing our Native communities in more meaningful ways in alignment with our restorative arts practice. Now we will go, and you see resources there on the screen. And we will move right into our public comment period. As you know, people wishing to speak can sign up at the beginning of the meeting. The total time allocated for our public art comment is 20 minutes. You will have 2 minutes max per person, and persons wishing to comment must comment on something germane to items on the agenda, and again, must sign up prior to the beginning of the meeting. And so do we have people signed up, Vivian?
Yes, we have 2.
Okay, I will turn it over to you so you can administer that. Thank you.
Okay, the first person I have on the list is Nicole Williams. And as you're walking, I'll just let you know. I'll let you know when your start time starts, and I'll let you know when you have a minute left.
Thank you.
Your time starts now.
Great. So I hear you all are going to be making a motion today to fire Director Singh. And whatever you may think of Director Singh, I just want to remind you all that he is a human being. He has children who he is trying to raise. You are voting to take away his livelihood, and you should not be celebrating this or treating it flippantly. Commissioner John Nefflin's behavior at the most recent meeting was, in my mind, despicable. Laughing at the idea of, oh, I want to be back from Italy so that I can vote to fire Director Singh is just like inhuman to me. So I hope you all treat this issue with more respect than he did. And I also want to point out that cultures of fear are pervasive throughout Metro departments. This type of behavior is not unique to Director Singh. There was toxicity before Director Singh.
1 minute.
There may be toxicity after. So simply replacing him won't necessarily fix this. I just want you all to be clear on that as you move forward. And, you know, that's not to excuse his behavior at all. I will say I worked for Metro for 2 years. I experienced something very similar to what Director Singh has been accused of doing. And I did not report it to HR. I quit because I was concerned about retaliation. Because actually, the head of our HR department for my department was in the room when threats were made against me. So this is not unique. And in the immortal words of Vice President Kamala Harris, you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. So just remember context.
All right, thank you. And the next person we have is Emma Supka. All right, your time starts now.
I'm the founding director of a small arts org, a performing theater artist. I was also part of the operating grant editing process summer 2023, and I've spent the better part of a decade volunteering with Nashville Arts Coalition to advocate for more money for the Metro budget to be allocated for Metro Arts to distribute to artists in our community. But I'm not here today to discuss personnel issues and whether or not I think that Director Singh should be fired or not for doing his job well. And to be honest, I don't know if it would matter. I will say that I do feel grateful for Director Singh's intent to distribute arts funding equitably. His actions, while in the context of the whole of his job are deserving of criticism, felt too bold because they did confront a system rooted in colonialism and white supremacy. So I will ask that as we move forward, you must painstakingly address and right the system which played a majority part in the story of this process, and do not let this aspect of the work be in vain. I am here to share the toll that this process has had on small and mid-sized arts organizations. My organization, Unscripted, was a volunteer-run organization which prioritized paying, teaching, and performing artists very competitively, especially in the context of improv, and did not pay administrators consistently until September 2023. December 2023 was the first and so far only time this fiscal year we've received any funding from Metro Arts, and in the amount of half of what the August vote determined to be our allocation. We've cut programs which rely on our operational budget to occur, funding which subsidizes artists to teach school programming and other community programs which can't be covered through fee-for-service or project grants, covers insurance for artists in higher risk settings, and more. There is no middle management. We are artists making art with other artists, teaching art to those who have been excluded from this pay-to-play art form, and many of my colleagues have had no other choice than to cover expenses with our personal credit cards, cut programs, suspended our own pay, and created backup plans on backup plans in case we have to do it all over again next year, all while continuing to respond to the call for advocacy and engagement in this community. Thank you. I wrote it down. That's how you know I wanted to get it all in as an improviser. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the public comment. We are concluded there.
Thank you, Vivian, and thank you to the people who commented today. As I always say, we hear you. We appreciate you. Sometimes we don't know things until you let us know. And so again, we appreciate you being bold enough to come here and brave enough to let us know what's on your heart. And so we thank you for that. So before we approve the minutes, I would like to just move two things around on the agenda if there's no objection. I would like to hear the Budget and Oversight Committee before we hear the Grant and Funding Committee, because I think it would give a little bit more context. Is there any objection to just moving those, swapping those two out? All right, thank you. All right, so you all received the April minutes in your board packet. Are there any questions or changes? I'll entertain a motion to approve if there are no changes.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you for approving our April 18th minutes. So now I will turn it over to Commissioner Watts to do the Budget and Oversight Committee and address any other issues that relate to our budget request.
Good afternoon. And welcome, Dr. Coleman. Thank you. Arts and Oversight met, and we're in the process of doing a few things, and that is getting a real understanding of what's in place, and that's what we decided at the last meeting. What does that look like? I have been struggling with what to write to chairs of committees to ask them for information, because I need it to be pretty simple. And then I need the committee to sort of give me some more insight as to what they want to have at our next meeting, which is on July the 2nd, where we will start the process. We need to know what currently exists in terms of operating procedures, where there might be gaps, and what recommendations may or may not be under consideration over the next several months from staff to us. We also need to look at what we know, given our respective backgrounds, might need to be in place. And then we'll consult with finance about some things that they may know that we don't know at this point in time. So that's really what we're trying to do over the next 90 days, starting in July, is to look at that. So I'll be sending something out to chairs and now to you, Dr. Coleman, that says this is what we'd like to see, questions you can ask me, and then we have committee members that also will chime in and do some things. At our last meeting, let me thank Commissioner Lefowich for providing some oversight and some historical background for us, because that tends to be lacking for a number of new commissioners on this board. And we're continually building our history and our own infrastructure about what we know about the Arts Commission, how it has functioned, not just this last year, but over its history, and where it might need to make some changes. And that's really, I think, how we can be helpful as a Board of Commissioners in terms of providing information, questions, and issues to staff as they move forward with developing these kinds of issues. As we move forward, too, we'll be bringing back reports about what we know. Some of this might look like onboarding, because that's what some of it might be, because some of us, we don't know what we don't know till we know it. And that's really, I think, where we are in a lot of these. So we'll be looking at that, trying to make sure that that's done. I think that was the basis. I see my committee members. If I missed anything from the brief oversight committee meeting, I'm going to go into budget in just a minute. Let me know. Okay, all right, all right. The next thing I'm going to do is to look at the budget, which was sent to me this morning. I hope I pulled it off my printer. If not, I'll pull it up on my screen. There it is, right there, nice and bright. One of the two things that I've looked at is the FY24 budget, and this was based on the chair's request for this meeting. The FY24 budget pretty much has total personnel cost of $1.8 million, and I'm going to round this off, $1.8 million. It was revised. There was no revisions to the personnel line of the budget. There was fringe benefits of about $448,500 of that. Other professional services issues were at $200,000, but it was revised to $912,500. Contributor agency grant monies is $3.06 million. Management consultants was $137,000. Temporary service, $56,400. All other expenditures, $195,000. The total cost for non-personnel revised was $3.6 million. This is the FY24 budget, the one we're currently heading toward the end of. The combined budget for both personnel and non-personnel related matters was $5.4 million. There is additional projected expenses through 6/30/24 of $1.2 million approximately. Projected budget availability, which is the real issue, is $48,423. Let me say that again. Projected expenses through 6/30/24 is about $1.2 million approximately. Little change here or there. But projected budget availability is $48,423. I got some details from finance and this is a snapshot that says this does not include the additional supplemental dollars that legal is currently administering. Does not include it. So that's an additional amount of money.
I feel like I heard two numbers. Did you say 48,000 or 428,000?
Projected availability, 48,000.
48,000.
423. However, it does not include the additional supplemental dollars that legal is currently administering. Okay? And I'm assuming that I see Amanda back there, there's none of the costs for what they're administering in the projected expenses? Oh, is that 3.2 million? That's what I thought I saw. Okay. I'm through with FY24. That's moving toward June 30, okay?
I'll let you finish and then I'll ask questions.
All right. That's FY24. Fiscal year 25 is a flat budget. Again, this is summaries. Because it's flat, personnel costs will remain at $1.8 million. There is a revised budget for other professional services, which is $912,500. There's contributions and grant agencies, which is revised to $2.3 million. And this is down just slightly. There's some more dollars, but about that amount. Management consultants, the line item is the same as fiscal '24, 137,600. Temporary services is 56,400. And all other expenditures are at 195,800. And that total costs for non-personnel is $3.6 million. Combined, the budget is 5.461,700. I'm giving you exact numbers there, which is the same as last year's budget. Madam Chair, that's what I have. I have more detail, but I decided that's not necessarily what we wanted to deal with today. The meeting with the mayor's office is May the 23rd at 4 p.m., I believe. It's not 4:30, I think it's 4 p.m. Questions?
Yeah, so Commissioner Watts, thank you for all the work that you've done on this. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions from other commissioners. And you may not be able to answer this question. And I know Chris is not here with us today. But based on the meetings that you have had, how are we here?
That's a good question, because I'm still trying to figure out how we're there and why the number is so large. I don't know. And I don't know what these expenditures are in the projected expenditures through June 30th. I don't have a listing of those. So I'm just looking at a snapshot picture. So those are the questions. What is this money for?
Okay.
What does it mean? Is it to pay contract expenses, grant expenses, whatever? And did we not get some money in that we thought we were going to get? That's kind of the three questions as an old person looking at a budget would think about. How much do I have? How much don't I have? And how much don't I have is a pretty large number. And there's nothing about audit. I don't know anything about the audit process, so yes.
I'll say that we don't know these answers, and so we can just ask these questions to one another just to have it on the record. But before next week, we probably need to get with Chris and just so that we are better prepared for when we do go to our meeting. Because I don't have the answers to questions that I know are going to come to us. And we do, and I'll introduce her later on in the agenda, but we do have an interim director now. And it may be a little unfair to put our interim in that position without any answers and not being able to fully address how we got here, because with just my limited knowledge of budgets in this whole process and haven't been able to see budgets from years past within this commission or this department, I can see that we shouldn't be here. And so I'll just leave my comments at that. Are there any other comments from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Lefowitz, yeah.
I have a question about the what you can see in terms of thinking about budget and actual. I guess I'm just thinking about boards that I've been on, like financial reports, and you can see like where you are per category, and we can't see that, right? Because that might help with just what Commissioner Love's talking about.
And what I asked for was a summary for this morning. Yeah. Because when we get into all the details, having done state budgets, there's one that'll tell you how much you paid out on personnel, if you have any left, if it'll flow into your operating or not. All of those are the details that I think we need to see, and we don't have those. And that's the kind of thing that I was really looking for. And those are the kind of things that I think we need to look at and find out about, absent a director for this long. And the fact that I agree with you, Commissioner Love, that we do not need to necessarily put our interim into it, but I think we need to all go into it with our eyes wide open, knowing as much as we know about whatever it is we can find out between now and then.
And so do you think, to Commissioner Love's point about preparing, that we might see that, have clarification on that, or not?
I'm going to ask Finance, can we get those kinds of reports from you all? Yes. So, Amanda, I'll be back in touch with you and ask you about those and get those out to all the commissioners here. So, okay? And the interim director.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Are there any other questions for her? Commissioner Wade, you did have your hand up, but I feel that you have something to say.
I have several questions. The first being, in a $1.2 million deficit, what happens to and with a metro department that is projected in a month and a half to have basically a $1.2 million deficit? If our expected expenses are 1.2, we have $50,000 in the bank.
That's right. And I don't know the answer.
And, okay.
But it's good to
But
raise
on the
question.
record.
On the record, raise
The question is an on-the-record question. Then the second question becomes, who manages all of these expenditures that have needed oversight over the course of the last year?
And that's a good question as well. I think the issue could be any number of things. I'm not going to even venture out to say what that looks like. But budgets are managed by staff and directors and a variety of people. Absence, people in place, some things will get paid automatically. And I don't know what those are, so we've got to know that. What's getting paid automatically? I'm sorry. Benefits and salaries generally get paid automatically. There's not a lot you have to do. You put in a timesheet, but those get paid automatically in most public budgets. What else? I don't know, because I've not looked at this budget deep enough, but I think that's a great question to actually understand the process. And that's what we've been trying to do, and that's what Budget and Oversight is looking at. What is the process for all of that? How many signatures are required to put it into the system for payment? That's another question.
And so my questions are really not expecting you to be able to answer them, but actually to get them on the record, because I'm interested to understand. There was another one, it flew out of my mind, I didn't write it down. I will push my button again.
Okay, thank you. I saw your face and I knew you had something that you wanted to ask. Commissioner West?
Thank you, Chair Love. Does this number include all grant payouts?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, I just wanted to get it on the record.
Right.
Because if we've got 423 available.
But the additional projected expenses is
1.2.
1.2.
Okay. And on the 912,500 on professional services, that seems higher than past years. I just would like to know how that's compared. I know I'm not asking for the answer from you. I'm not sure what that is made of. Thank you.
It's part of the revised budget, so it wasn't the original budget. Okay, so I'll just give you that much.
I have another.
Oh, yes, go ahead,
questions.
Commissioner Wade.
So making an assumption that we started the year with an approved budget, there were surely certain amounts of revenue in that budget that we then potentially made adjustments to expenses relative to what we learned was our budget after the original budget process. So my point is, we knew how much money we were going to have. We make that assumption that we know how much money we're going to have, and then we began to make expenditures far outside that number. And when I say we, all the people who are involved with managing the money. So that would be finance, that would be the director, folks who make decisions about what gets submitted. So some entity wasn't paying attention to what the actual number was relative to what and how we were spending the expense dollars. We were just kind of willy-nilly.
excuse me, I don't know if it was willy-nilly. I think we had absences and people not in place to do some of those things during some of those time periods, which is an accurate assessment. Whether they were willy-nilly or not, I think really will take an audit to give us that. But it looks like some of those things may have occurred in terms of who was making those decisions, how were they being done. Like I said, some things are paid automatically, so did they know that it looked like there was X in the budget, but when really there was Y, and things were paid? I mean, there's a variety of issues we need to look at if we're looking at all the steps. Generally, having done this, it's interesting how you end up with deficits. And some of it you can control and should control. Some of it are things that you can't control. So there's a lot of different factors. I don't know if that's the case here or not, but we just need to find out what happened with us, so.
One more. Is there a monthly, quarterly, bi-monthly engagement with what I would assume to be finance relative to monitoring regularly expenses and revenue?
I think there is, and I probably think we can probably look to see what that looks like over the months. The state and feds require that kind of thing when they're doing their audits, so I'm sure there's one. I used to get one every month. Told me what we'd paid, what we hadn't paid. If I had a lot of people to leave, it told me all the money I had in personnel that I never could use.
That's it for now.
Thank you. And just for the record, just for people who were not here, but when we initially created this Budget and Oversight Committee, it is a new committee for this very reason, because we need answers to these kind of questions, because before we were not having this type of conversation, right or wrong, we were just getting a report. And so there were a lot of questions that were raised, and I'll always defer to Commissioner West because she has been here longer, and she was at our executive committee meeting when we did discuss creating this Budget and Oversight Committee. And it was suggested to us for this very reason, so that we can, like you say, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what questions to ask until something arises and there is an issue. And so now that we know that there is an issue or where we are, then we are in a better position to make decisions on that. And so I thank you, Commissioner Watts, for being a newer commissioner, stepping in and chairing this and doing this for us. And I appreciate all of your hard work and the entire committee, because it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy. It's not hard. It's not easy, right? And so I appreciate that. Commissioner Jester, do you have something? I saw you.
I was just going to comment that we have talked in meetings, just to make light of this, we have talked in meetings about implementing a monthly or bi-monthly oversight of the budget. We just haven't been able to even get to that point yet. So it's definitely been talked about, and it's definitely something we won't let slide.
All right, thank you so much. Commissioner Wade, you had another question? I don't have any other questions for you. I think we've put a lot on the record, and we do have a little homework to do with less than a week to do it, because I would like to be just a little bit more prepared for next week. Yes, you're back. I knew if I did that, you would be ready.
As we think about the fiscal year 25 being a flat budget, are we looking at a $1.2 million deficit for fiscal year 25 as well? And is our meeting next Thursday the time and place that we begin to make the adjustments relative to shaving, whatever it is we need to shave, doing expense reallocation or things of that nature? How do we determine that we're not just going to wide-eyed walk into fiscal year 25 looking at a $1.2 million deficit and then saying we have a flat budget, so it's going to be the same budget next year? And we also don't have any idea of how we're going to cover this 1.2. Again, record question, not a question for response necessarily.
I was not told that this was the FY '25 budget with the deficit. And she just said, Finance just said, that's right. What you have is, what I told you was the budget for FY '25, so that it doesn't carry over, at least at this point.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner West.
On the fiscal year 25 budget. So, as we all know, for fiscal year 24, the additional 2 million came to us. So, when we're talking the $5,461,700 budget, that is the budget that was submitted from Metro Arts by Director Singh, is that correct?
Yes, all the budgets, both 24 and 25, were the original budgets as submitted, yes.
So for fiscal year 25, we know that the other additional 2 million is not coming in. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on where this looks.
What we don't know is there's still the budget document that was sent to council, which has a request for additional funds. That is still up in the air because council has not made a decision. So we cannot say what we may have at the end of any request, so.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Commissioner Jester.
I think something that might be interesting to look into as we dig in deeper to these numbers before the meeting next week is how much of that number was for consultants that's not going to be a reoccurring expense, and how much we're not, like, won't be part of the budget next year since we have a full complement of staff and we won't be hiring consultants.
And the year-to-date actual for consultants was 426,736, and there's a deficit there of 313,836 for this fiscal year. And for temporary services, the budget was 56,000. There is year-to-date of 396,192. There's additional projected expenses of 36,000, so there's a deficit there of 375,792. That's about 600,000, that's a little over $700,000 from FY '24.
Commissioner Watts, could you send that budget to the commission? Would that be okay? And Commissioner Wade, to answer your question about who was responsible, I think in terms, from my memory, Director Singh and Ian Myers, our past financial director, would have those answers, but they worked on the budget together.
And I will also send you the 5-page fiscal year '24 report. 24 request as well. I'll get those to you this afternoon, I hope. I'm going to have to leave in about 10 minutes. I'm on a plane.
That's all right. So, Commissioner Lefowitz.
I just wanted to say if there's anything you need from us to prepare for that meeting as support, like commissioners as a whole, I guess this is for you, Commissioner Watts and Love, but just show up, do work, whatever. Just let us know, and I'll put everything in our files.
I know you will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let me just say, once I get the documents, I'm going to ask Amanda to send them to everyone so that you have them. So if you see something or have questions, let us know, and we'll try to get those done with Dr. Coleman's help in terms of making sure that we're all on one page. And I'm going to probably go through Dr. Coleman. I hate to do this, but just put you into the conversation so that you know as we go through, since you're the interim director, it's a good learning process. We just dump you in the deep end.
Who are the people actually going to be in that meeting? Is it just you and Commissioner Watts, or is that still?
So typically, it's the chair, finance person, and the director.
Okay.
And I'll be there if necessary, just to have I'll try to get the numbers and information. So if you have questions, you can just send them to me and I'll try to get that answered, so.
All right, well, thank you, Commissioner Watts, for your presentation. I'll just end how I started. How did we get here?
Good question.
And so we will move on to the Grants and Funding Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The Grants and Funding Committee last met on March 13, and we began discussions around two primary topics, one of those being delaying the grant funding cycle until sometime in the summer for reasons of being able to, one, have a clear picture of our books, and then two, be able to move the grant funding cycle into the same year as we're receiving funds from Metro's budget. And it was just the beginning of conversation. No conclusions were come to, but it was, that topic was discussed. The second was ways that we might be able to bring Thrive, the Thrive program into compliance. And I know there's been a lot of people aren't happy with that word compliance, but I'm really not sure what else to use since it literally hasn't been compliant for the last 10 years, even though we've been doing it this way. So we've started discussing what some options around that might look like. Again, no conclusions were drawn. It was just the beginning of conversation. We have not had a grants funding meeting since then, purposely because it was decided that any significant moves that are made there need to be with an executive director or an interim executive director on board. And we were reticent to shift too much without some executive director leadership. So now that Dr. Coleman is here, we appreciate your willingness to step up, and believe that myself and Sydney should spend some significant time on your calendar in the very near future, because while delaying the grants cycle has already happened sort of naturally, it can't happen much longer. And I did ask for public comment or feedback in our inboxes about what the negative impact about delaying the grant cycle might be, and have gotten some very good feedback I'd like to share with you. And I think any more conversation about that can happen between you and Sydney and myself, but that's where we are at this point, and look forward to moving into this next grant cycle as expeditiously and compliantly as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Jester. Are there any questions for him? All right, we will move on to the CARE report. Commissioner Harden, you have any updates for us?
Yes, just briefly. I know that staff has been meeting with a number of the CARE committee members. I see Terry. Hi, Terry. It's good to see you. We have a meeting scheduled for next Friday, May 24th at 10 a.m. I'm not exactly sure of the location yet, but I think it might be here, but that notice will go out in time. So we've been working with staff on an agenda. I think some of the main goals are really to just kind of reorient ourselves and go over the purpose of CARE, and kind of discussing ways to make it effective as an official committee. We've been kind of reflecting on the journey that CARE has taken to become an official committee from the art team and beyond. So really just trying to kind of meet for the first time for me, and then also looking at our turnover, the number of members we have, I think is another thing. And then really, just kind of making sure we're on the same plane. I think going over our goals, going over the CARE guidelines is high on the agenda list. And so I won't take up too much time, but I'm excited. So thank you.
That meeting has been noticed, and it will be here at MSC in the Antioch conference room.
All right, thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Commissioner Harden. You two came in and ready and started chairing a committee, a very important committee, and so I appreciate you coming in and stepping in and doing that for us and doing the hard work. So thank you so much. Are there any questions for Commissioner Harden? Okay, the next item on the agenda is staff and communications update. First thing is Director Singh's employment status. Just for the record, Director Singh has come off of FMLA. And if you recall, at our April 25th meeting, the motion was made and approved to keep him on, or not keep him, to place him on admin leave. And that admin leave would run for 2 weeks after he came off of FMLA. And so he came off of FMLA on the 16th, and so that time started running, May the 16th, and it started running May the 17th. And so his admin leave will be over May the 30th. I believe that is correct. And so that's where we are. Are there any questions or discussion about that? Oh, Commissioner Lefowitz. Oh, you okay? Oh, Commissioner Jester.
I was just going to ask Commissioner Watts what your time frame is like, because we lose quorum if you leave and you're headed out. So are you good for a few minutes?
All right. Are there any questions about what I just reported out about admin leave? Commissioner Lefowitz.
I wrote something. And it was in the newspaper, and I wanted just to, it helped me to write that, to think through my position on this. I guess I'm anxious for us to make a decision, and I feel ready to do that. I also want to say that I am committed to a restorative process, which to some of the points that were made earlier, these things aren't unique to Director Singh, these issues and that process, which I think we all need to be involved in, is important in moving us forward.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Lefowitz. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Jester.
Yeah, I just want to build on what Commissioner Watts talked about a little bit earlier, and that's just that there have been enough questionable financial processes that it has warranted an ongoing audit. Finances have been questionable enough that the director of finance has stepped in and taken over. And contrary to, I guess, some opinions, the finance director of a $3 billion budget doesn't just step in and take over a $3 million entity unless it's absolutely necessary. And then I think one of the most upsetting pieces of evidence is that we have ended up here is that the Tennessee Arts Commission has decided that we're not a good institution to be able to distribute funds to artists in the community, and that's the entire reason that we exist. And then I think we should just note that there really isn't precedent to be paying two executive directors at the same time.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Jester. Are there any other comments? Commissioner West.
Thank you, Chair Love. I think building on both of you, Commissioner Jester and Commissioner Lefkowitz, I am in a unique position that I've been on this commission for 6 years. Prior to that, very involved with the Arts Commission. And I feel like I just can't sit back any longer and see this divisiveness between the entire arts ecosystem. It is just, it's heartbreaking for everyone. That being said, I think there's some information everyone kind of needs to be clear on. I guess it was August 2022 is when the executive director was brought on board. But prior to that, the agency significantly harmed the community. We all know this. This dysfunction was there before Director Singh came. That being said, the following steps, like in my mind, and I kind of wrote some things out so I'd be clear, were taken in February 2022 by the executive committee, which I'm on, and then moved to the commission. Those were Metro DEI leadership working with the staff and commission, and from that work, the commission did adopt an actionable commitment of workplace culture and equity within Metro Arts. That document is available. I can send it over for our drive. So these items were developed with Metro DEI, and then a plan was instituted to search for a new executive director. And once that director was in place, I think everyone's hope was that Metro Arts would have a reset and continue serving our artists and serving Nashville. In the search for the new ED, the commission advised that the ED must understand and know how to apply the framework for DEI work. That was a major part of his hire, of the director's hire. However, it was not the only part of his hire. There were many reasons that we needed to have administration experience. We needed to have someone to come in and heal and bring together the community to get processes straight And these are the reasons that the director was hired, and unfortunately, these needs have gone unmet in a large way. In no way am I discounting the work that the director has done with equity, but that is a piece of the puzzle that has kind of overshadowed everything, in my opinion. He was charged with bringing systems together. The entire ecosystem just feels like it's been split apart. The strategic plan has gone unimplemented. Money spent on the cultural plan, work halted. These were all part of the ED's original hire. And that's what I have. Are we losing quorum?
Yep. Commissioner Watts, can we borrow you for 5 more minutes, please?
Well, how are we losing quorum? There's 11 of us on the commission.
There are 15 commissioners assigned per the code. And so, although there are only currently 11 assigned per the code and 15 commissioners assigned, 8 is quorum.
Well, I'm just gonna say, how does that make sense? If the mayor's office hasn't appointed people, we can't have quorum based on people who don't exist. And I'm just asking, because that just, we only have 11 people on the commission.
I understand
Yeah.
your position, Chair Love.
I'm asking just for anything, because that doesn't, if we only have 11 people on the commission, that's, and I'm just asking for, when there's not, the bylaws is silent if the commission is not fully staffed. I'll say that, or fully appointed. It is silent to that. And so I was just asking that question because let's just say there was a full reset. And what if, that just does not make sense to me. And so I really would just love a little bit more clarity on that. I understand that our bylaws state that there's 15 people, and of course 8 people is quorum. But when those slots are not filled, then we would never be able to conduct business. And if 8 is always the quorum number, if we're not completely staffed. And so I think that we will always be at a disservice if that is the way that we were running things, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I can offer to get a memo to you in the commission on this specific issue, but Metro Legal has taken the position that 8 is quorum based on the code.
I just, for the record, I just strongly disagree with that. I just want that to be, that process is just not, because I don't know when the last time we were at 15. Even before we had a resignation, we still only had, the mayor's office didn't fulfill those, or not for any fault of their own, they just did not fill those other 3 positions. And so I understand what you're saying, and I understand how that works, but for, we would always be at a disservice, I'll just say that.
Can I read the bylaw? It says, "The number of members of the commission which shall constitute a quorum for the purpose of the meeting and transacting business shall consist of a majority of the total members whose terms of office are effective at the time of any meeting."
Legal has spoken, so that's where we are.
So I have a question relative to, at what point and in what?
And Commissioner Wade, I apologize. I do need to interrupt it and
Go
make
ahead.
note that since we have lost quorum, that this body cannot conduct business, official business.
If we
Can I ask a
cannot,
question?
we cannot take an action. We can have discussion. We just can't take an action because we don't have enough people to vote on an issue.
And I just wanted to note that,
Okay.
Chair Love.
But I can't ask a question that doesn't require deliberation because it ultimately is a process question. At what point and how do we manage commission members who don't show up?
The bylaws do provide for that, Commissioner Wade.
And so does that mean then we need to add something to the agenda of a next meeting that says we need to address commission members who are not showing up, who have not met their requirement? Because there are a handful of us who brand new
Yes,
showing up.
so to legal's point, there is a provision, and we were almost there having that conversation, but we don't have to have that conversation right now. But that is something that is on the record, and we have resources to help us with that. My only issue with the situation is that if we don't have people who are appointed to the commission, it would just always put us at a disadvantage to have quorum if we're not just fully staffed. And so that's my only issue or concern with that, but that's where we are.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
And in agreeing with that, if what I understood Commissioner Lefkowitz to say in reading the bylaws, then the number of people on the commission then gives us an opportunity to, whether I'm right or wrong, because I've been wrong plenty of times, but the way that I heard what Commissioner Lefkowitz said was 15 is not the number. It should be 11, all of those kinds of things. But in recognizing that we're always going to be at a disadvantage because of the way that the bylaws are written, and recognizing that we also then have commissioners that do not show up, we will be even more unable to do work if there were ever a change or update to the bylaws. We have to show up. No, we're not having fun doing this, but we have to show up.
Thank you. Commissioner Jester, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I just ask if legal can help us understand how they interpreted Section 1, subsection C about quorum to mean what you've interpreted to interpret it to mean? Because I don't know how else to read constitute a quorum for the purpose of meeting and transacting business shall consist of a majority of the total members whose terms of office are effective at the time of any meeting.
I do understand your point, Commissioner Jester. Legal has discussed this, and that we feel, based on the fact that it is a 15-member commission, that deferring to what the code states as far as the will of the council, the will of the legislative body, that the intention is 15 members, and therefore quorum of 15 members is 8.
Are there any other questions for legal? All right. Well, what I would love to do now is to introduce, and I would have done this at the beginning, but we did have a section on the agenda to discuss our interim director. At the April 25th meeting, the commission voted to entertain conversations to Dr. Paulette Coleman to serve as our interim director. We are here today. She is here today, and I would love for her to be able to introduce herself. Some of us do know her professionally, personally, and so some of us do not. And so I would love for her to be able to say hello and just welcome her to the Arts Commission. And if you can just speak on the microphone so that people at home can hear you as well.
Good afternoon. I am absolutely excited to be here, even in the midst of these tumultuous times. I start from the premise that all of us believe that arts can transform lives and build communities. If that's our first orientation, then our aim, our goal, our purpose is to decide how that can be done and how each of us contributes to that. I have had a wonderful welcome with staff members Vivian Fox and Christiana Afote, and today with Commissioner Lefkowitz and some more staff members. There are lots of things that I am learning in terms of how our organization is functioning, and I hope to be able to give you some kind of a preliminary report at the next monthly meeting. I am very concerned about the May 23rd budget hearing. I've gone through them before, both for the Arts Commission, but some time ago. And we will be prepared and we will present a good united front. I am also concerned about the grants review process and the metrics that are being used. And I will be working closely with Commissioner Jester and that committee. And I'm happy that there is at least receptivity to having the bandwidth to critically assess where we are and to avoid situations in terms of 24 for the future. I am also concerned about how we move forward and how other agencies and departments like legal, like finance, like the mayor's office, will advance and be included in that process, and that arts will become a priority. We have two very, very major projects, East Bank Development and the new WeGo Transit, and I'm sure some others, but those two are front of mind. And arts need to be included in that early on so that they don't get tacked on as a part of an already crowded agenda. But people need to have confidence in us. People need to trust and believe that we are going to do what's right and that we're going to do it as excellently as possible and in a manner that is inclusive of all. I think all of us, those who are present and those who are not present, need to lower the level, okay? We need to be respectful, and if we're not going to engage in public dialogue that is respectful, remember, treat other people like you want to be treated. You don't want to be name-called in public or privately. So let's all embrace the notion that arts can have a really transformative effect and impact on our city and work together to make that happen. Some friends of mine in my Bible study and prayer group sent me these flowers, and they're very beautiful and they're nice colors. And I said, you know, we need some joy. We need something to uplift us all. So I'm sharing my flowers with you. Thank you very much. I will be meeting with Chair Love. I will be meeting with Commissioner Jester. I will certainly be meeting with Commissioner Watson, everybody else. I am appreciative of this opportunity. I don't think we should fool ourselves that it will be easy, but we have to get it done to prepare the way for whoever's to come in the future to lead us forward to higher heights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. I will say that we cannot take any action, but we are in an awkward situation because on May the 30th, we will have a director coming off of admin leave, and we do not have a meeting until, we won't have a meeting before then. And then we have an interim director. And so that is something that we need to discuss, because that can't happen, right? And so whatever that looks like for us and how we want to deal with that, we still have to deal with it. And it will create action. And so I'm asking if Vivian, if you can just figure out a way for us to meet before then. And just, even if we have to call us individually to say, you got to be here, because we got to figure something out within the next 2 weeks, because at the end of May 30th, we will have 2 people doing the same thing. And so however that looks, or whatever decision we make on that, that can't happen. Does that make sense? Okay.
So to properly be noticed, so we do not have that concern, May the 23rd, May the 24th, the week of the 27th through the 30th. Those would be our open dates. I know the 30th is the day that Director Singh would be coming back, but those are the open dates that, as of today, the 16th, we would have enough time for it to be publicly noticed.
Okay.
We don't need a motion for that, we can just do it.
Yes, if you want, you all can let me know before you leave here. And then for the other commissioners that are not here, I can send out a doodle, I can just send out an email, and I can make phone calls.
So let's
to
do
go
the
from there.
doodle, just so we can all be on the same one. You can have everyone on there, and then we can start making calls, because that will be a very unique and uneventful situation to be in, and so we do need to deal with that. Commissioner Jester, did you have something, or you just?
I think you've accomplished what I was going to ask for.
Okay. Okay. Again, thank you, Dr. Coleman, for saying yes, because you could have said no, and so we appreciate you.
I was heartbroken by the things I was reading, so.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the next thing we have is the legislation impacting the commission. And so on May the 8th, the commission was called to present and to be before the Rules Committee. And some of the things that they wanted to ask us was how Metro HR supports boards and commissions, and then what criteria the Arts Commission is looking for in potential commission members. And so Commissioners Jester, Lefowitz, and McCoy were present, and I do know that other commissioners were watching online. And so I think it went pretty well. We were just asked just to share our thoughts on how our time has been with the Arts Commission and different ways that we can help make it better and just make the process better for potential members who were coming after us and with us. And so I just want to commend that committee and the chair for doing that, and doing that for all of the boards and commissions, because we can always get better and be better. And I just thank the council for reaching out and giving us an opportunity to say our piece and just speak with them, because we are here because we were created by them. And so, so I just appreciated that. The other thing, there's 3 pieces of legislation, and there could be more. Councilperson Stiles has always been vocal about the things that she wanted to change in Metro Arts, and other boards, not just Metro Arts. And so I guess I thought those changes were coming as fast as they were, and so I'll take responsibility for not getting those pieces to you before, but I have seen those pieces of legislation, and one of them is adding to our purpose the sentence to promote equity in the arts and community as a bullet point, and what our purpose is. The second one is to add, this impacts all boards and commissions, to add the members of Metro boards and commissions to the list of persons required to submit annual disclosures. That's going to be before the council. And then the third thing that I've seen as of late is, and I'll just read it. The commission shall be composed of 16 members. 15 members are to be appointed by the mayor and serve without compensation. All members of the commission appointed by the mayor shall be confirmed by the Metropolitan County Council. 1 member shall be a member of the council who serves on the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee of the council, or a successor committee to which arts-related legislation is referred, selected by that committee. And so when I saw that, I did reach out to Councilperson Stiles to ask, is this unique to arts? Has this ever happened before? And so she did say that this has happened with other boards before, and this may not be a permanent fix or a permanent thing, but as of right now, that is some legislation that's before the council. I think we are on second or the third reading now with that piece of legislation, and so I will be watching that closely and keep you all updated. I'm sure you all can watch. I know there are a lot of people who watch. I know Commissioner West, she watches and pays attention to those pieces of legislation. So those are some things that could be approved pretty soon. And so just to give you all an update on that. Yes, Commissioner Lefowitz.
I did go to speak at the last.
Oh, yeah, you did. I'm so sorry. Forgive me.
No,
for that.
it's,
Yeah.
no, I showed up, I just decided to. But and so I just want to say, I did that. So you could do that too if you were able. I ran out of time, but other than that, I encourage you if you can show up.
Your words were well spoken, and I plan to be there at second reading to offer my own opinion. I vehemently disagree with an exception like that being made for this particular commission.
You have to sign up and you have to go early. I just want to tell you that.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner West. Yes.
Chair Love, is Would the council person be a voting or non-voting member?
That I do not know. Because that will, if that's the case, then 9 people will be quorum, so.
I couldn't tell from the legislation, but it just seemed like a council member voting, there's a lot of competing interests there.
Absolutely. So, yes. All right. The next thing on the agenda is just some chair updates. You all received email. We did have another resignation. Commissioner Derek Bell resigned. So the mayor's office now has 4 people to appoint to the commission. And so we'll be working with them and waiting to hear who those people will be when we'll get more people on the commission. So right now we are sitting at 11. Again, Commissioner Bell resigned, and we are now at 11 people. The next thing that update I had is the nominating committee. So we need to get all up on a nominating committee because in September is when our election will be. Again, I am acting chair. Just so you know, I am acting chair. And so we will have election coming up later this fall. And so I will be appointing a nominating committee to help us with that process. I'll be doing that before our next meeting. Forgive me, I do not have those names for you now. But we will be appointing, I'll be appointing a nominating committee because we will be voting in September, or by September, I think it's September, on officers. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for allowing me to sit in this role as acting chair. I hope I am doing justice by you, and I just appreciate all of the support. I don't always do everything correctly, but I thank you for extending grace when I do mess up, and so I appreciate you all so much. And so those are all my chair updates. Commissioner Lefowitz, did you show your finger?
Are all the officers up for, do you know what I'm saying? Is it like high school? Do you have to campaign?
So yes,
Do
we
I
are
need to
not
make some buttons?
we're not on any staggered terms, but I just don't think there will be many people fighting for that. And I don't foresee that.
Because
but-
I'm just really into this right now, so I want to say
we thank you so much. So those are the chair updates that I had. I don't have any new or old business. Is there someone? Yes, Commissioner Wade.
A question. And I want to go back to this quorum conversation. So it seems that there are several of us, or a few of us, or just me, who in the hearing of the bylaws read by Commissioner Lefkowitz have a difference of opinion with Metro Legal. So legal's opinion is that the commission is 15 and we cannot conduct business because the quorum for 15 is 11, even though there are not actually that number of commission members. So is this opinion like the opinion that came down relative to affirmative action last year? Meaning we listen, we can potentially make a different decision? Is this a legal, it is against the law for you to do this 15 commission members, 11 makes a quorum? Is it against the law for us to, with the 8 members who are here, 7 members who are here, whatever the number is, to do something different because it's an opinion versus we are unable to continue to do business?
It is legal's recommendation, given the code and all relevant and pertinent laws, that this commission not conduct business today, for any further business today based on what legal believes to be a lack of quorum.
a recommendation versus an opinion?
They're the same.
Is it fair to say that that's based on circumstances broader than our bylaws? And we're just reading our bylaws and asking these questions? So when you say law, are you talking about Tennessee Code annotated? Are you talking, you said the will of the council. Can you help me understand the will of the council as it pertains to this?
As far as the Metro Council writes and approves the Metro Code. And so it is our reading of the Metro Code that the intent is 15 commissioners and 8 would be quorum.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm still not in agreement with that, and if we, continue to not do business, in not doing business, I think we need to add something to an agenda coming up soon that talks about what then really, and who then really does determine what this quorum is. Because again, we will never be able to do work. And I'm sorry, I will not keep coming back here to not do work.
I'll just say this. Oftentimes, there's rules. Anytime there's a change in legislation, there's rules in something, I always say something must have happened for that to be a rule, right? And so is it clear in code bylaws? No, it's not, because again, we will always be at, again, a disadvantage. When it was written, was it poorly written? Probably so, because there will be chances or instances where 15 people will just not be appointed and have their terms up for discussion. Again, I strongly disagree with that. I don't know what the ramifications would be if we did take a vote. I don't know what that would be, but I strongly disagree with that, and I could be wrong. And I always leave things up to the will of the commission.
Another question. Is it conducting business to ask that we put something on the agenda next time for this called meeting that we're talking about to specifically address this quorum issue? Is that conducting business?
This is Nikki Eke from Metro Legal. I just wanted to further chime in on what Tessa Ortiz-Marsh has said, which is that our best advice to you today is that based on membership of 15 that's established for this commission, that the quorum is 8. This is the best advice we're giving it to you today based on provisions of the code and potential applicable provisions of the Metro Charter. And in general, when there is no specified quorum, that is generally that a majority of the entire membership is what's needed for a quorum. So the commission can reschedule the meeting to a later date and put agenda items that they were not able to discuss today on that agenda and then continue with its business. This is our best decision to ensure that whatever decisions you make will be or has the potential to be found consistent with law, applicable law.
So then, yes, we can ask to have something placed on the agenda, which was my question. It's not handling business or conducting business to simply request for something to be put on the agenda.
Yeah, the normal process for putting items on the agenda can be followed.
Great, thank you.
So, but again, our advice is that really, because this meeting was set to conduct official matters on the agenda, that because of the loss of one member, that the business really not continue, and that the board, that a meeting be set in the future to continue those matters, so that whatever this board is, whatever action this board is taking with regards to official matters, there will be no issues, or it lessens the risk that there will be issues with regards to those decisions.
To be clear, I'm not asking to put anything on today's agenda. I'm asking, and I think you've answered, that we can request today that in the subsequent meeting that we are calling, that an agenda item be added to that agenda item. Thank you.
I would like to ask all of us to pick up our phones and look at our dates right now, and let's just pick a date. We have to have one other person, at least.
Pick as many dates as possible, and then the people that are not here, I will have a conversation with each of them and go from there.
Commissioner Lefowitz, do you have something? Commissioner West, have anything?
No, I just wanted to be sure that we were getting the specially called meeting on and that we can conduct business. That's all.
The doodle has been sent out.
Thank you, Vivian.
Did you have something?
I do. Since we can't conduct business, I then assume that I cannot make a motion, but I can suggest that we add to the agenda for the special called meeting a discussion around what a quorum is and a definitive decision around how many commissioners we can have in the room to actually make a decision and have a vote. Does that require a motion? And then is that then conducting business?
Again, we don't recommend that any votes be taken at this meeting in any form. Any vote, motion, second, voting, because a quorum has been lost based on our view at this time.
I'll just say this. So at our next meeting, the things that we need to discuss, Vivian, to be on that agenda will be staff. I guess we can talk about staff and communications update as well, because we cannot have two people in the same position. So we need to discuss the director and interim director status. That's what we need to discuss. And we would also need to Commissioner Wade, to her point, I would really love, because this will happen again, I would love a memo, and not just regurgitating what you said today. I would love some research on how we conduct business if there are not 15 people appointed to our board, because this issue will come up again. If I didn't think it would come up again, I probably would just ignore this and ask for a motion, but it will come up again. And I want to make sure that we are all on the same page when we are dealing with this. And so I would love to have from legal, before our next meeting, or just present at that meeting, what does it mean to have quorum? And what if we do not have 15 members appointed? Not whether they're here, whether they're appointed and they're not showing up, because that's a whole other issue. If we don't have 15 people appointed or a fully staffed commission, what is quorum and what does that look like, and how are we going to conduct business? And so that's what needs to be on the agenda for our specially called meeting. And yes, Commissioner Kurtz.
This may be a basic question, but then how do we call an end to this meeting?
Yeah, I think the chair can just announce that.
Yeah, that's why I just did that, because as chair, we can, that's, because it needs to be on the record so we can do it correctly. And that's how we'll handle that. And I look forward to having the discussion about our interim and executive director, and also hearing from legal about this quorum issue, because we surely cannot be the only commission that this will come up with. And this will come up again, because right now we are only at 11 people. And it will come up again. So thank you, Commissioner Kurtz, for that. And honestly, we could just walk away because we can't make a motion to end the meeting. I'm done.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.